Hello there, Romans here, and welcome to my next music review. Today it's going to be Roger Waters' Is This the Life We Really Want?
Music review. Music review.
Roger Waters is best known from Pink Floyd, where he was one of the founding members and he was in the band since its beginning until 1985 when he left the band. And he was a singer, one of the singers, songwriter, and a bass player. When he left the band, he recorded 3 solo records and 1 opera in 2005, which is more like a project rather than a solo record. But this new album is actually his first solo record in 25 years, as his last record was released in 1992 and was called Amused to Death. I must confess I haven't listened to previous solo records, to any solo records from Roger Waters, but I'm planning to. And I've heard the new album 8 times as of now, so let's get to it. The first song, called Deja Vu on the record, immediately reminded me of the song called Fearless from Pink Floyd's 1971 metal album. And then you've got acoustic guitar with G and C chords. And this song, along with the song called Broken Bones, also reminded me of the song called Mother from Pink Floyd's 1979 The Wall record. The first single that Roger Waters released out of this record is called Smell the Roses, and this song, in terms of the groove, is very similar to the song Time from Pink Floyd's record called Dark Side of the Moon from 1973, or it also reminds me a little bit of Have a Cigar from 1975's Wish You Were Here. And there is one part that actually reminds me a lot of Welcome to the Machine from the same album, and even in the song Deja Vu, when I think the second verse starts, there's a string arrangement that kind of reminds me of the chorus of Comfortably Numb, when you have do 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 do. There is a lot of 70s nostalgia all over the record, but in a good way, of course. And sometimes it seems like Roger Waters was paying homage to the classical Pink Floyd era. Of course, this is the signature songwriting style of Roger Waters, so we cannot really say that he's paying homage to those old songs, but he definitely has his recognizable songwriting, and it's all over the new record. There are a lot of Pink Floyd flashbacks all over the album. This sort of creates a very familiar feeling that will kind of make it easier for you to get into the record. When it comes to the arrangement, I think that record is sort of a minimalistic. You've got many songs like Deja Vu or Broken Bones, Wait for Her, give a sort of a acoustic feeling. You've got acoustic guitars, you've got piano, you've got, of course, drum and bass. You even have electric guitar now and there, but the only song where you actually have a sort of a guitar solo is the lead singer Smell the Roses, which is also as rock as the record gets. This was the first single released of the record, and if you had certain expectations out of that single, if you thought that the rest of the record was going to be like that, you will be probably surprised, as the record is pretty mellow and it's not very heavy. Smell the Roses is probably the heaviest track on the record. You've got a couple of other tracks, like for example Bird and Gale or the title track Is This the Life We Really Want, that are pretty dark and slightly heavy, especially with the title track being sort of a psychedelic track. I would say that probably the most dominant part of arrangements is the orchestra. The orchestration is all over the tracks, and it really makes the record sound very epic. You also have keyboards, which will remind you of those Rick Wright keyboard tones from songs like Goodbye Blue Sky or Welcome to the Machine. Also the backing vocals, especially in the song Picture That, will remind you of those big backing vocals in songs like Shine On You Crazy Diamond or Brain Damage Eclipse. One interesting thing in terms of arrangements is the song called The Last Refugee, which has a very 80s sounding keyboard in it. Kind of reminds me of Stranger Things. But as I mentioned, there are actually no guitar solos on the record, so it's a very song-focused kind of record. Also, the song structure is pretty unconventional, because apart from the first single, Smell the Roses, which is actually the only song that has a chorus, all the other tracks are just a bunch of verses put together, And I think that this is a very lyric driven music. I guess that out of this you can say that this record has a sort of a prog rock slash rock element. From a viewpoint of a genre, I would call this record an art rock. Let's get to the lyrics. I think that everybody who knows Roger Waters knows he really makes a lot of political and social commentary, and this record is no different. It is pretty well known that he is very anti-Trump, and that was showcased on his Us and Them tour, where when he performed the song Pigs from Pink Floyd's 1977 Animals record, he had pictures of Trump on the screen and the words Trump is a pig. There is one song that is really dedicated to Trump, and that's the title track of the record, Is This the Life We Really Want, which starts with a little piece of an interview with Trump, one of the most infamous interviews, and then the whole song deals with things that Trump actually built his political career on, so like the theme of immigrants or foreigners or refugees, which is also touched on in the song The Last Refugee. The whole record is actually dealing with themes like greed, corporations. There is a lot of social commentary and social criticism, anti-war themes. In the first song called Deja Vu, he thinks that if he was God, he would have made a better job. Then he talks about drones. We know that drones are very impersonal and they can be very surprising for enemies, and he also is strongly against this. For example, the song The Most Beautiful Girl has a very interesting theme where he describes this ordinary woman who is obviously very beautiful, but she dies because of a bomb explosion, and he also describes people responsible for her death who are probably very far away, who probably don't care about her or don't even know about her at all. He sort of sums it up in a song called Broken Bones, where he also expresses his opinion that we should have learned from our mistakes. There was a World War II, a lot of conflicts and wars, and it seems like we still haven't learned our lesson. He demonstrates this by saying that we adhere to abundance. And it's really, again, the greed that is the result of everything bad going in the world. Even in the song Is This the Life We Really Want, he says that we are all to blame for what's happening in the world. I will return to the song Broken Bones. He also says that babies mean no harm to us. They have to be taught to despise us. He also makes social commentary, for example, in a song called Picture That, where he describes, probably from his own experience, people who buy the most expensive tickets to the first rows of the concerts, and then they spend the whole concert recording everything on a phone and then sharing it. It's like we are addicted to social media, social networks, and the only thing we want to do is to record everything we do and share it. In the song Broken Bones, he also says that even if we cannot change the past, we can still say no to what's happening now. We can still make the change. So it seems like he's in this role of this old, experienced prophet who tries to warn the world. Interesting thing is that lyrically I would divide this album into two parts. So when this first part ends, and even though the songs are not very heavy, his anger and frustration is really emphasized by using a lot of swearing, especially in the song Picture That. And then the 10th track is called Wait for Her, which is based on a poem from a famous Palestinian poet. Here's his name. And this song stands out because after all the themes that have been explored before, suddenly we have this extremely gentle ballad that describes sort of old-fashioned or obsolete ways of courtship, and it's one of the most beautiful ballads I've ever heard, also because of the words. Let her be still, like a summer afternoon, a garden in full bloom. Let her breathe in the air, pour into her heart. Let her lips part, wait for her. And the last three songs, so Wait for Her, Oceans Apart, and Part of Me Died, all three seem like a part of one song. And in the song Part of Me Died, he describes everything bad about humanity, so envy, jealousy, anger, greed, and so on. And this part of him died once he met his love. And I must say that this last part almost drove me to tears. It's just so beautiful and so well written, and he really tries to say that the cure for this world is love. Love is the answer. And as I said, this whole record is filled with a lot of regret. It sometimes seems like Roger Waters is blaming himself, and he feels like he's part of the problem. And this kind of a regret I've heard only twice before, and that was on David Bowie's Black Star, where he was dying at that time, and also Johnny Cash's Hurt song, which is a cover of 9 Inch Nails, where he also was before his death. And even though that in these two examples that regret is differently focused, it's that I don't think you could get this kind of a regret from a young musician. This also brings me to Roger Waters' vocal performance. Now, every time I listen to Pink Floyd, I will be honest, I prefer David Gilmour's vocals that are slightly more mass appealing. Roger Waters, on the other hand, possessed more of a flexibility, and he was able to scream and had a bigger range. But as with his looks, it seems like his voice also aged very, very well. And even you may say that he's not one of those singers where you go like, wow, he's one of the best singers in the world, but no other singer would deliver these songs as he does. And I just really like his vocal performance, especially if he goes up in a song. He emphasizes certain parts by going up in his range, and it just gives, there's so much power in his voice. Find someone home. And what is pretty surprising is that he uses a lot of bass notes. I don't think he's a bass. There were moments when I thought he was a tenor when he speaks, but it seemed he uses a lot of very low singing positions. To sum up, this is a record that sounds very old school and very classical 70s Pink Floyd-ish, which I think will be very appealing to Pink Floyd fans of that era. So I must say that I really enjoyed this record. I would strongly recommend listening to this record with the lyrics. So as to the score, I decided to give this record 9 points out of 10, which means that I don't recommend this just to the Pink Floyd fans or fans of Roger Waters. This is a great record. One last thing to mention is that the album's title, Is This the Life We Really Want, in Slovak means Je toto život, ktorý naozaj chceme. So if you like the review, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe, and see you at the next music or gear review or whatever. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to let me know what you think about the record in the comment section below. Cheers.